Friends, how we doing? We've made it once again to another milestone video. As you can see, $80,000 in dividend portfolio size. And it wasn't too long ago that we hit the 75K mark. So we'll talk about it. I have some thoughts and I'll show you, the details, the depth of what it means to have a dividend portfolio of this size. So just like we always do on milestone videos, bear with me. There's going to be more data, more details shown in these videos than typically my other style videos. So if that's something that interests you, take a look at the timestamps down below. You can see what we'll go over in this video. And if it's your first time or just as a reminder, some things that I go over is how much do I fund my portfolio and how often. I'll explain a little bit more about my sector allocations and percentages. I'll go over my current number of holdings. I'll go over my current dividend portfolio's yield. What is my personal expense ratio of a portfolio of this size, and how much my dividend portfolio currently pays me in dividends. I only highlight this part because that is the part that I think most people come to the video for. Is just to see that part, right? How much does an $80,000 dividend portfolio pay somebody, right? It's a good question, and we'll go over that in this video today. But before we get any further, friends, I just have some quick thoughts. Just some little quick snippets. If you want to skip this, go ahead. But it's mainly two things. And one, the first thing is it's hard to know how your dividend portfolio is going to play out, right? For me, I just had hit the 75K mark. Boom. A little bit of time elapsed and here I am at 80K. And honestly, friends, I haven't been doing anything different. And it brings up a couple feelings for me. One is the worry, right? It's a worry that this market continues to inflate. If you look around you, housing is going up, food continues to go up, insurance continues to go up, and people's wages continue to stay the same. I mean, as an RN, which is my working profession, I make a pretty good salary, but I even feel it eating at my salary, right? What I used to feel was a cushion before, right? Maybe 3 years ago. All this inflation has been eating even at my salary, my buying power. And it's crazy to see. So I can only imagine, right, for the individuals who maybe don't have a career path such as the one that I have, right, which is typically considered a pretty solid, smart career path. You could easily make 100K working as an RN on one salary, right? I'm feeling it. So I can just imagine other people out there as well feeling this pressure. So yes, it's nice to see my dividend portfolio go up and up, but it's like, why is it going up so much? It's a good and a bad thing. It's like a double-edged sword. You want it to go up, but the fact that it's going up, is it inflation or is it the market's actually doing well? Is it your investments actually doing well? And it just brings up that question. And that's the first thing that comes to mind. The second thing, friends, is, last year I made a sacrifice. And I sold a chunk of my dividend portfolio. I sold, I think, about 4 shares of Nvidia is what it was. And it was around $2,000 at that time. Today it'd be a lot more. And let's say I would have kept it, my portfolio would be a lot higher. But there's going to come points in life, friends, as you age, when priorities start to shift and change. Last year I sold that to go with my partner and her mom to Greece, which was one of her life goal trips. And I made that decision. I made the sacrifice to sell that, to go to Greece, and rather than think of money and prioritize financial aspects of my life, right, I sold that, took that money and went on a trip to Greece for more of a interpersonal, right, reward, like a investing into the relationship, right, with my partner, her mom, and living in the moment, thinking of life. And those are little things that sometimes as we tend to age, we'll tend to shift our focus to, right? When I first started this dividend portfolio, I was investing so heavily, thinking only about the money. But then eventually as you get older, you start to see there's a shift. If you even see it, there's people who don't see it, right? This idea, you're never going to take the money with you, right? So it's always a balancing act. It's this idea of how do you plan your financial future, but also live in the moment. I call it life's greatest conundrum. If I only think about money, this dividend portfolio, my career, development trajectory, and I don't think about life. I don't think about investing into my future, right? With my partner and relationships, right? Right now, I'm currently investing a lot of money into therapy, individual therapy. We're actually going to do couples therapy again. And I'm investing a lot of money in that. Continuing to set this foundation, right? How to connect and communicate with my partner, how to connect and communicate with myself, so then it translates to a better life quality, right? Not just financial return. And it may eventually stem off into that, but I'm not going to get too far off track here. My point to saying this is that this year again, right? I'm getting older. My parents are getting older. My dad's going to be 70 this year. My mom's already 65. Sure, not that old, but honestly, people pass away at that age or much sooner than that. And honestly, if people pass away around this age, people don't really bat an eye. People pass away at that age all the time. You know, that's almost like a life lived. Anything extra is bonus. And one thing my mom always wanted to do was go to Cancun. Well, I can't get to the point where I'm going to say next year, because next year now she's 66 and my dad will now be 71. So this shift has to occur. So this year I'm going to have to choose again. Do I choose life and experience and connections with my family, or do I think of my portfolio and that financial aspect of my life? So priorities are going to kick in again. And one way for me to actually get the funds to go on these trips, right? For example, last year to Greece, this year to Cancun, we'll be taking a chunk out of this dividend portfolio. So the only reason why I mention it, friends, is because the whole thing is a journey. Sometimes you can focus heavily on your financial aspect of your life, but there's going to come moments where you have to sacrifice some of those finances to live in the moment, live in the present with those relationships that you care about. So just some quick thoughts. So eventually this year, you're going to see a chunk go missing of this dividend portfolio. So I'll probably dip below 80K, or unless inflation continues to just rock and roll. But again, I don't know if that's a good thing. But anyways, friends, enough with the serious talk out the way. We'll have a different type of serious talk now. And I do want to say, if you made it to this part of the video, no matter how you made it here, welcome to all the new subscribers. I saw quite a bit of new people joining the journey, and it's always fun to see. You know, it kind of happens in waves. I've been here since August of 2020 making these videos, and you know, when did I start this portfolio? Well, I started the portfolio itself in July 2020, right after that COVID pandemic, you know, that big old dip in the market, when I thought, hey, you know, maybe I missed the wave, because everything started going up again. Right? For me, I actually invested and started thinking everything would go up but would continue to go down. Remember back then when the markets just didn't make any sense at all? Like the whole world was placed on pause. And somehow with all the funding, all the additional financial assistance, you know, from government entities, however you want to paint the picture, it's hard to know, right? I mean, I'm not here to tell you what your thoughts are, but the market never dipped. It dipped, it crashed, but it came and rebounded so fast. And honestly, ever since then, my portfolio has continued to go up because the market has continued to go up. I just want to thank you guys for anyone who's new here, who's joined the journey. Everyone's welcome. You know, like I said, you guys kind of come in waves, and that's awesome to see. I'm going to be here till the very end of this portfolio. I'm always in a state of contemplation regarding, do I keep going with this dividend portfolio? Do I sell it off and use it as a down payment for my first home, my first rental? You know, I'm always in that constant state. But lately, I've just been thinking that the best way for me to invest is just to continue with this dividend portfolio. And that's what my initial plan was to become a dividend investor for decades on end. So that's my ongoing plan. No matter, you know, what my mind is thinking about and selling this portfolio off, I won't. You know, this is my story, is being a dividend investor for decades. So one day I can have that pillow right at the end that I think we all want. But as you can see, friends, with enough of that ramble out the way, we're at $81,292.96. This is on the all-time charts. I'll do my best to show you, you know, the statistics here on M1 Finance. I always kind of complain about their new update and how it's hard to know exactly what the return is, but we'll do our best here. This is the all-time chart, and it says a money-weighted rate of return of 45%. You take that for what it's worth. but it does say a market gain of $13,000 here, and it does say all-time earned dividends of $5,198. This is always kind of fun to see. Look at this, friends. I've only been investing $100 every week for the most part for this entire year so far. Maybe a few weeks at $150, but it wasn't very long after that I dipped and was only investing $100 every week. And regardless of that, look at how my portfolio has moved. It's both exciting, but also, like I touched on earlier, is it just inflation, right? I know Nvidia was a hot stock, you'll see, and that contributed to a lot of this, but otherwise, the question lies, is it inflation? Is it real? Is it good? I don't know. I've been here, like I said, since 2020. My portfolio has never moved like this before. And it sucks for the people who aren't in the game because they're just getting left behind if this is true, right? If inflation is just going like this. But for the people who are in the game and invested, you're going to see something like this. Both good and bad, maybe. And as far as the year to date, my money weighted rate of return is 6.50%. Market gain is $4,000. Earned dividends so far, it says this year, $414. So we'll take it. And now just switching back to the all-time view, let's go down to sector allocations and percentages. So as you can see here, I'm moving from highest to lowest. So for my highest sector allocation, I have real estate set at 13%, followed by consumer staples at 12%, ETF at 10%, index fund at 10%. And if you're curious, my ETF is SPYD, Spider. And if you're curious about my index fund, it's VIG, Vanguard. Just to show you, it's better to show you than not to show you, right? And then my next sector allocation weight is tech at 10%, utilities at 10%, financials at 9%, industrials at 8%, healthcare at 7%, communications at 5%, energy at 3%, materials at 2%, and I always like showing it. My consumer discretionary at 1%, aka, if you've been here a while, that's my McDonald's. It's my only one. And, I'm just rocking with McDonald's. It's solid, right? It's like everywhere. It's global, right? I like it. Also, every once in a while, I like a Big Mac or, chicken McNuggets, even though they're probably not very good for you. But it's something I've always liked as a child. But let's see, friends, the best overall returns per sector. We have tech at 300%, energy 96%, and I'll touch on tech here in a second. Financials at 81%, industrials at 50% return, consumer discretionary at 44.90%. My index fund is a 40% return, materials is 35% return. And as you can see, friends, so on and so forth. The majority of my portfolio is in the green, so it's been performing very well. Real estate is barely red. You could say it's just flat, minus 0.09%, and then healthcare minus 18%. Healthcare is a hit or miss. It has its moments, and I'm in the healthcare field working as an RN, so I care about healthcare. So I always have it, at a decent weight, 7%. My portfolio has its moments. But going back to tech, friends, 300%, right? Let's take a look in here. This is on the all-time, and as you can see, the majority of it is because Nvidia has a 1,108% return. I had it at a target allocation of 28% of my portfolio, and I think it's relevant to say it is now at 57% in terms of actual weight of this sector here. And you could be like, Jesse, man, that's like way unbalanced. And it's true. But, when something's working, I just let it ride. And overall, the reason why I would sell anything at all in my portfolio is because I'm given a reason to sell. Last year, I actually sold a piece of Nvidia, but that was only because I was trying to live in the moment and, go to Greece with my partner and her mom. And I'm really glad that I used the funds from that to go to Greece. And this year, I may have to do the same, for my older parents, trying to take them to Cancun for the first time. I might take the money out from Nvidia. But as you can see, friends, it's doing really well, to say the least. And then Oracle is 137% return. IBM has 100% return. Everything is in the green here noticeably. And that's the reason why my tech sector has been doing so well. And honestly, probably a big reason why my whole entire dividend portfolio has been doing well. And as you're going to see with the dividend payout amount that I get for this portfolio, the reflection of my portfolio is going to show that. It's not probably your average $80,000 dividend portfolio, in the sense that a lot of it is actual just, gain from the market. And Nvidia itself doesn't pay a big amount in dividends. It's what you would consider a dividend growth stock. They pay a dividend, but it's not very much. And just before we continue to move on, I did forget to say, if you're trying to see what's in my sectors individually, like in industrials, for example, you could check out the link in my description box down below. If you click on that, you'll see the shared link to my N1 Pi, and you can go at your own leisure, see what's in all my sectors. I know I personally found that helpful, to see other people's holdings when I first started. So if you're curious, you want to see what's in all my sectors, just click on that link. It's free. I don't get anything from it, but hopefully you do by checking it out. And let's just move on to the activity section here. So as I was saying earlier, I currently fund $100 into this dividend portfolio every week, every Friday technically. And that is my current funding pace at the moment. If you've been here since 2020, at the very beginning when I was first into the workforce, all my life obligations were a lot less. My lifestyle was less, and things like that, right? If you want to know a little bit more about me, I'm in a relationship with a domestic partner. It's her and I, we continue to navigate in this life together, and, we do it in a rather unconventional way. Will we get married? I don't know, but, we're together and we're committed to one another. And she has a personal business. We increased our living space. We have a dog, and we're dinks technically. Double income, no kids. So just a little bit about me, if you're new here. But I currently fund $100 every single week. And as you can see, I continue to get these dividend payouts, which I used to put a lot of attention to when I first started. Not so much anymore. It's just an expectation. But when I look back, I sit back and actually look. It's really awesome to see. And I'm looking forward to the day in the future, right? When I'm 52, retired, and this is my this is one of the pillars in my retirement, right? Looking at these dividend payouts just come in, and thinking and looking back at all the work that I've done, right, to get this stream of income. So it's nice to see it now, though. Still, you can see $68. That's quite a bit from SPYD. And I just want to be a little bit transparent here, show you some of my funding history. I started the dividend portfolio in the year 2020. 2021 was $26,000. If you do the math, this is $500 every week. I was just blitzing. I was out of my mind. And then 2022, 2023, this was about $100 a week. I went to go get my master's degree. I paid that out of pocket. It was around $16,000. And yeah, here we are in 2024. Up to this point in time, I funded $1,250. But as you'll see with the amount that this dividend portfolio pays me, it also contributes to it, which is nice, because I actively have a drip. If you're curious, I'm dripping my dividend payouts back into this portfolio, and so far it hasn't come back to bite me, when it comes down to tax time. But we'll see as it continues, right, to unfold. We'll see if it bites me come tax time. I still got a refund this year, so I'll say that. As far as holdings here, one area that I want to show you is just unrealized gain. So far for the portfolio, I have a cost basis of $69,000. The value of the portfolio is around $81,000. Unrealized gain is around $12,000. And as you can see here, a little peek, I hold 51 positions currently in the portfolio. And as far as best performers all time, I have Nvidia, of course, at 606%, it says, of unrealized gain. ExxonMobil, 132%. Oracle, 76%. And everything else goes smaller from there. So like I said, just trying to show you a little bit more of the data of the portfolio. As you saw, I do have 51 holdings of the portfolio. And as far as my dividend yield, it's pretty solid actually, even with Nvidia blowing up 3.325%, which is roughly around where I like it. I have no issues. And then my expense ratio is low. I manage my own portfolio for the most part, so I expect it to be low. I take on that risk, 0.01%. All right, let's go back and see what I did not cover out of my list. So how much I fund and how often? Yeah, $100 every week. I showed you my sector allocations and percentages, my number of holdings, my dividend yield, my expense ratio. So let me show you how much my dividend portfolio currently pays me in dividends. And maybe just before I get there, let me tell you my short and long-term plans for the portfolio. So my short-term plans, friends, is just to continue to stabilize myself. At the moment, with the way the markets are moving, inflation, I thought I would have had my first real estate property now or even just soon on the horizon. But with everything going on, having gone back to school to get my master's degree, parents getting older and taking a trip to Greece, and this year taking a trip to Cancun, which also is not cheap. At the moment, I've been prioritizing keeping the funding into this portfolio alive, right? Giving it a heartbeat, $100 every week. I'm going to do that until I can restabilize myself and get to a better place. I'm in no rush here. I've been focusing a lot on relationships, right? With family, myself, going to therapy, career development. I went back last year to get my master's, or the year before, and last year I finished, and I spent quite a bit of money there. So at the moment, right, I'm waiting for this next opportunity, this next job, which is a promotion with the state of California. I'm still going to stay with the state, keep that pension in my back pocket, which is like the ACE card that I hold. But this promotion is going to be a job cut, right? If you've been following some of my latest videos, I'm going to take a job cut as a promotion. It just happens to work out that way. It's a bit unfortunate, but I do work in the prison system at the moment. And when you work in the prison, they pay you more. They have something called a no hostage policy, right? Who would have thought? Yeah, look it up. But they pay me more to work in a prison. So when I go to leave the prison, I'm going to work as a nurse consultant for the state of California, which is a position I would not have gotten without my master's degree. So I'm going in the right way. And eventually, because it's an entry-level consultant position, later down the line, I'm going to be able to make significantly more money. I just have to kind of pay my dues, pay my path. And I've been focusing a lot on career development, career trajectory, investing a lot there. And family, like I said, relationships, therapy, really setting a foundation for myself in my 20s. That is my plan. That is my goal at the moment. And I'm hoping in a few years, it'll finally pay off with a better relationship with myself, having taken my family to places, before they can't go anymore. And then also a financial return, right? Doing these entry-level consultant positions so that way eventually I make a lot more money. And then I could really invest, right? Setting that foundation work in your 20s. That's how I recommend it. I've been playing that card in my life so far. My long-term goal, you may have heard it already, is to retire at the age of 50 to 52. If I leave the prison, I'll no longer be safety anymore, like a safety member for the state. So I think my earliest retirement age with my pension would be 52. So that would be my new marker. And I'd be done with benefits and healthcare, my pension, and like almost 30 years with the state, right? So we'll see how time continues to play out. But those are my short and long-term goals in summary. And now just to show you, friends, how much an 80K dividend portfolio pays me in dividends. So as you can see here, friends, this app is called the Div Tracker, not sponsored by them, but it's one that I use and it's helpful. As you can see, the amount is the same, $81,292 minus 3 pennies. For the most part, the same, which is nice because sometimes it's hard to get it to look that way. So boom, my annual dividend income is $2,454.31. Monthly, it comes down to $204.53. Daily, $6.72. It's about enough for a coffee now with inflation. And then my yield, it says it's 3.02. M1 I think was 3.2 or almost 3.3. So somewhere around there. There's always a slight discrepancy there, but that's okay. And let's see, just scrolling down, I'm at 98% reached for my dividend income goal. My last goal was like 2,000. My current goal is 2,500, just inching closer. It says if I invest $1,290 on my portfolio's yield, I would reach this goal. So sooner rather than later. But there it is, friends. That is my annual dividend income data for a portfolio size of 80K. And that's going to be it, friends. Thank you guys so much for joining this milestone video, watching, subscribing. We'll see if a few more people join the journey, but friends, we have an endless amount of time is what it seems like, decades on decades. As long as I'm still here, friends, I'm going to continue down this path of being a dividend investor. This year in, July, it would now be 4 full years as a dividend investor, and we just continue to rock and roll, friends. Hopefully there's something of value for you, even if nothing else, just a companion someone else that you can relate to doing the same thing you're doing. Because being a dividend investor can be a lonely road. Not many people do it, especially at a young age in your 20s. I'll just leave it at that. But always, friends, see you on the next one in 2 weeks. As always, take care.